Hey everyone, my name is Nase DeSanders of Borrowing Tape, and I am here with Kerry and Mondragon, the writer and director of Tyger, a fantasy thriller about Blake and Luke who rob a pharmacy and act as Robin Hood-like characters distributing stolen medication to people around the city. Thank you for being here, Kerry.
Thank you for having me.
So to start off, this film was conceptualized, written, and shot all before the current global pandemic. So first question, are you psychic? And if not, how did you come up with the concept?
No, I'm definitely not psychic. I think it was interesting. It was one of those things where I had felt this sort of like angst, and I wanted to do something like there's elements of like it being from the AIDS epidemic but somebody asked me this the other day. It's like, I don't remember how the face mask was like a clear indication of it's like a visual aesthetic element. And I don't know. I was talking to Sam about it. I was like, God, when was that decision made? I'm trying to remember, it was written in the script, but it was like, damn, yeah. So I don't fully know the answer to that. Yeah.
Well, it was absolutely perfect. As soon as I saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, here we go. So how did you go about writing and structuring an unconventional film like this?
Definitely, it's interesting because now that I'm thinking about it, the first part of it took a very long time for me to write. I'd say maybe 2 years, just that first 10 minutes. And it was because I was just like, I think it was the old process of how I was used to doing stuff and I'm a bit of a perfectionist. So I spent so much time on this like concept of like a pharmacy robbery. And then I went down to the location, spent a lot of time with the people down there, and all of that happened like almost like an overflow of just like immediately, like it just dictated the script. So I wrote that part of it in like a week and a half, or like 2 weeks maybe. And it was just and a lot of it was like true too, like I got stuck in the sand, like all that stuff actually in the same camp. And so as far out and like fantastical as it seems, it was like kind of true for a lot of it.
Wow, that's amazing.
And also, sorry, and the other thing is like there definitely was me processing a lot of my own issues that I had during that exact moment, that was like almost in a therapeutic, like how am I going to process like addictions, love, stuff that I've almost like there's a bit of an amends in it, there's just a lot of that stuff. So it was very personal in that sense too. Yeah.
Oh wow, the power of art.
Yeah.
So could you tell us where the title Tyger comes from?
Yeah, that was it. Came from like my mom used to read me this children's book that was a William Blake like children's book of poetry, and it's just the first thing that I was drawn to in art. And like I would write, I would draw these tigers and send them to Allen Ginsberg like before he died, and that like had a big impact on me on a more like at the root, almost like on a soul level is what it felt like that. And it's something that I lost for the next 15, 20 years from school and culture and stuff. And so, and addictions. And so it was just strange. It was like right when I had experienced a pretty significant issue with the addiction, like very hardcore rock bottom. That was just what came in that sense, was that going back to the roots of things a bit. Yeah.
Oh wow. All right. So the opening credit sequence is super funky with the artistic style of it. So what made you want to have that longer, more artistic opening credit sequence?
It was that fell into place in a pretty magical way because somebody had sent me Melissa, who's the artist of that. She had done this beautiful like poetry, like art film collaboration with her art. And I just like instantly saw that as like the aesthetic for it that I had been looking for, because I knew I wanted something that spoke to the film. And she we just had discussed it, and she immediately got the style of it, which yeah, it was very, you know, like the film very much so is like aesthetically going into it, handheld, gritty, but beautiful. Everything's beautiful but ugly at the same time. So even the score, we, you know, ran it through tape decks to like destroy the sound of it. Beautiful score that would go through this pass of like, or like wardrobe, no makeup in the movie, like things like that, but they still look beautiful, like those type of things. And so with her, it was real simple with the, okay, let's do stop motion animation. So she was hand painting all those, and in a very like intuitive, just let's knock one out, boom, knock it. And she's just like a genius all over. Yeah.
Wow, that sounds super cool. So the film's leads do a great job. How was working with Sam Quartin and Dylan Sprouse?
It's incredible. I think they're like different sides of a coin in a way that I felt not only spoke to the title of the movie, but like it was it's something that it's almost like they complement each other so well in a very symmetrical like way for me. And you know, there was a danger with going like kind of stepping into maybe the trappings of like casting based off of Dylan, or the trappings based off just Sam. And I think it can go two directions, and I just like had to stay so strong with that part. That was like one thing that was so hard on that, was just saying no, like we both of them together, like it's got to be that complement of that, like and yeah, Sam, you know, Sam's just incredible as well. And Dylan too is like this thing where he pulled me when I first met him. He's like, he like pulled me outside. We like met, and he's like, thanks for sending me like those like River Phoenix clips and stuff. But like, I just got to tell you, like, no way I'm not gonna be able to channel like River Phoenix at all. I just want to like caveat that. And I just think it's funny because I was like looking at comments, and like people like legitimately like think he looks like River Phoenix said. So I like sent him a screenshot of that. I'm like, dude, we, you know, kind of did it a little bit here. So yeah.
Yeah, as soon as you like, when I watched the film, I wasn't thinking that, but as soon as you said it, I was like, you know what, he does kind of look like a young River Phoenix. That's funny. So the film was shot in Slab City, California, and the inhabitants of that area took part in the film, both on and off camera. So how did you effectively direct non-actors?
It was, I think that the double-edged sword of it is like, well, first it's building trust, like trust coming in, right? And I just was so like, the biggest thing I was fighting for on that was like, we cannot make a footprint that affects that community, that affects, it's essentially a tribe, you know. And like, and I didn't want to do what other films have done, where they come in with a bigger crew and there's already a separation that happens, and one side, you know, there's a power divide that doesn't work. And I think that we were all on the same playing field with that, and like there was risks with that going into it, but I just like knew that like if we go in with the right intentions with this, it's not only good for the film but just safety of everybody. It's like a family in a way. And so I think that allowed everybody to feel comfortable. And what worked really well, not just with them, but they, by playing versions of themselves in a way, you know, you don't get a lot of takes with doing that. But it also, I noticed, helped the actors, because it's like oil and water when those two things kind of come together. And I think they push both of each other. So like if the non-professional actor down there is doing a great job in this way, then like it up levels everybody, you know. And so I thought that it worked really, really nicely. Yeah, but like you can't do multiple takes, I feel like.
I think that's something a lot of people probably don't consider when they're watching films like that you can't do too many takes because of the non-actors. It's very cool. So do you have any interesting stories from your time in Slab City?
Oh yeah, like there's like just some wild, I mean, just as you were wrapping up that, I was like thinking, I'm like, oh yeah, well, this guy Utah, was named Utah because he like came from Utah,
Mhm.
and he's in the motel scene, and he's like he's so good. But it was interesting because like I had my friend Jay who was also helping with locations, and so I'd text Jay in the morning and be like, Jay, like man, I really want to get Utah in this scene. Like, do you know where he's at? And he's like, so he'd go out and kind of find him in like one of the camps, and he's like, all right, well, Utah, he hasn't worn a shirt or shoes in like 2 months. But like he's down, we could shower really quick, but do you have wardrobe for him? So then I'd like go to work. I'm like, yeah, like we can find. And so then he'd come in and like we would do that. And then, I mean, just crazy stories of like, I don't even know some that I could talk about, but like, actually there was one like security guy who had discovered that his like girlfriend had like uploaded videos of them, and it just threw him into this like dark place. And so then he like, it basically, long story short, is he like came, he threatened like some of the cast, Dylan specifically. He was drunk, and then he came in like while we were shooting on the other part of the town there, and he just burst in and he was like bawling, crying, like, they kicked me out of my trailer, like blah blah. And I'm like, well, I heard you just threatened like somebody, like, and what is it? And so then I like put him in the van, and I drive him to like where the people that kicked him out were, and then I like convinced them not to kick him out. And then like Dylan and the cast, they were all like in this drama situation. It was very dramatic, but like the moral of that was like, if you're being extorted down there, like it was like, I think the main thing was like, don't, like, we came in with this intention to not cause any sort of problems with this in the community, and it's so important that like we maintain that, and it just, that's the rules, and the rules like don't apply, like it wouldn't apply in LA to do something like that, but it would apply down there because that's just like different like laws and stuff.
Okay, that sounds really cool.
Wait, do I have time to tell one more story?
Absolutely, go for it.
Okay. This other one is really funny. So then last day, like the drip truck gets stuck in the sand. We're trying to dig it out. And then Dylan texts me and he's like, man, he's like, I think Cody stole my Nintendo from the trailer. I was like, are you serious? I was like, oh no. Like, and Cody was in the film and he lives down there. And it was just this wrap up of the end of that. It was like, it was so symbolic because Cody was there all the time, and he was the first person I met down there. Cody was like shooting his friends with BB guns, and like before I had actors, I was just gonna like make a movie about that, like just like kids just shooting each other with BB guns. And then because I kind of related to that, but then like, so on the last day, Cody had stolen Dylan's Nintendo and then like drives. So Dylan like basically, he did it so beautifully, like it's like such an older brother thing. He like drove to his middle school and like just had like a heart-to-heart sit down with them, like, hey man, you can't just like, don't steal. Like if you would have asked for it, I would have given it to you, and it just, it was just a really touching sort of thing. And so I went to Walmart and like bought him like all these like gifts to Cody, and I bought like a stuffed tiger, and then I like just dropped it off at his trailer before I left. Yeah, so that's another cool story.
That's so sweet. So were you living in Slab City while shooting, or were you guys like living outside the city and commuting in?
Yeah, so like when I went down there, I stayed there for a week in the beginning, I think a week or a little bit more. And then as I was writing, so I wrote down there the rest of it, then came back to start prep. My friend had lost his house. This is like crazy magic that happened. So he loses his house, his housing situation, and he had, and I had met him in rehab, just to be like honest about that. So I meet him in rehab, and he was like, I trusted this guy so much, Jay. So I was like, dude, like, can you, if you don't have, like, it would mean a lot to me if you just went down and stayed with like Rabbit Side Camp down there and helped, like, just help me, because it's 4 hours away. And so he went down there and he stayed there for like 2 months. And so while we were prepping, and it was the most critical thing because it allowed us to like have, open communication with everything. And yeah, and it just was like very, very effective in just, yeah, maintaining sort of a balance and like harmony within the community there. And yeah,
Wow, sounds like a wild time.
yeah, it was pretty wild for sure.
Cool. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit.
Oh,
I understand that you were a mentee of Spike Lee. How did that relationship come to be?
that was like wild. I mean, he is so, I love Spike so much. I have so much love for him. Like uh, but the way that I went about it was way different. So he was doing this Kickstarter campaign, and I just like was super annoying. Okay, well, let me just caveat this by saying I was using and like not well during that time. However, so I was really annoying probably on the Vimeo, and I just like blasted through it. And his assistant, I guess, had sent it to him. And the next morning I got a call from Spike. He said, "Hey, like your offer's interesting. Like let's talk." And so then I like call him back, and I'm trying to pitch myself as a producer. He's like, "No, I don't think you're a producer. Maybe talk to the producer that's on it. Like maybe come out here and assist me." So I went out there, and it was like, I mean, it was being thrown right into it. Um, and it was one of those things where, I mean, he even said, he was like, "Look, you got to keep up with this. Like this is," and it was so key for me because it's like he runs it like like a team, like a basketball team almost, and having like people that this camaraderie of people that have worked with them since like, I mean, there's like Ruth Carter, like I'm like legends that are on this film set, and it's just that family vibe. And he would just always, he would say, and Jason the producer would say, "This isn't just because it never changes making a movie like you're gonna do the same stuff from the first one to the last one, no matter how it's successful, it's all the same in the sense of like you're doing same process, it's just more people or more money and more days, but yeah, it was like my boot camp for sure. Uh and I made it through the whole thing with Martha's Vineyard with them. So it was like a little bit of the prep, or like a couple weeks of the prep, the shoot, and then like he also would, I would go to his he had his editor that was like teaching his that was teaching his class at NYU, so I could go and like sit in on the class and learn. Just like, I mean, it was just a gift. It was such a gift, and because I never went to film school, so that was my film school. And I think and then the dark side of that too was like, I mean, I was using during that time, and getting clean after that. There's a lot of shame with that. And I just I just felt like he had a lot of patience with me, I would imagine. And I think that it just speaks a lot to him as a person. And yeah.
Wow, that's
and I
amazing.
and I picked up, and I grew up watching his movies too, so it was like a lot of that seeped in, I guess, into the process. So
Noticing a theme, there's a wild story for everything with you.
yeah, that kind of is a wild story for sure.
So how did Spike's teachings help you on this project?
It was really fundamental. It was really like basic stuff in this. Like I knew that at that point I had known enough about the craft of filmmaking because I'd worked on a lot of commercials, and just grew up with wanting to be a director and a writer, and but I think at the end of the day it was like the idea of, in combination with like by any means necessary, he gave me the sweatshirt that had a patch on it, right? And like I apply that, there's a context to that I relate to so much, and I think that using that in a sense also with making a movie, but it's doing it in a very like morally and spiritual sort of way where like gifts happen, as if you just go with the right intentions, and I think that it was key for me because on this film, I did it completely opposite of how I'd done anything in my past, and in the past, it was very much, what am I going to get? Like, what am I going to get? What is the world going to reward me with? You know, and it's the trap that a lot of people, younger people, or film it. It's just like, that's it, because it's part of the culture. And on this, I was like, I can't control, nor do I want to control any of that anymore. I can control what I contribute, and if stuff comes, it comes. But like, that's it, you know. And what's interesting about that is like, stuff does come, you know, but it doesn't. It just shows up in a different form, and yeah, and that's definitely like from Spike. A lot of that was in that sense, and just how to run a set that's like a coach, you know. You gotta like flip a switch sometimes and just like get stuff done and be efficient. Yeah, because like we only had 16 days, so it was like a really short shoot. So we had to be really, really efficient, and none of the locations were locked, and a lot of stuff was just like, yeah, it was definitely intense.
Wow. The pharmacy too? The pharmacy wasn't locked?
No, like we didn't have budget for the pharmacy at first, because it's like, shooting in a pharmacy is kind of like shooting in a bank. It was what I realized. Like, there's a lot of stuff that like has to get. So me, that guy Jay, and the DP on like our day off were like, let's just go into town and just knock on doors. And the first one we went to was like White Cross Pharmacy down in Brawley. And Shane was just like the coolest pharmacist ever. And he's in the movie, and that's his pharmacy. And it was just like, I mean, that guy was such a gift, because also we had left a script there. Somebody left a script. And then he calls me like a week later, and he's like, hey man, like somebody left a script here, and I read it, and are you taking any investors or anything? And I'm like, well, I haven't had one yet, but like, if you want to invest, that would be awesome. And so Shane, the pharmacist, is like our first investor of the movie. So that was like really cool. Yeah.
That's wonderful. That's the dream.
I know, Shane.
That's crazy.
Shane, bro.
So, which films or directors have influenced you as a filmmaker, but also the film Tyger?
I would say for Tyger, it was a lot of poetic realism stuff that was like from like the 20s in France, like as pretentious as that sound, but it was like mainly a lot of them were like anarchists, like this one John Vigo, and I just like, they have a little, it's interesting, they call it poetic realism because it's a lot of like real, shooting on location. Even a lot of the themes, and I learned this after, mine are, have to do with like love, one shot at love that doesn't have the best ending. Back in the day with those, it was like working class people, real locations, some actors in there, but there was a hint of like poetry, or a hint of like some sort of magic in it, and they're just so beautiful. And so, but there weren't a lot of those films. And then it was interesting, like a lot of stuff that I grew up with as a kid, like sneaking into movie theaters and stuff. I would see like, so the two that I remember clearly, like this movie Tank Girl from like 90s, and that movie, which I love still, but there's little components of that seeped in. Romeo and Juliet from 1996 somehow made its way into the film in a very like color palette, like aesthetic. And yeah, I just sort of, a lot of the main one would be Rainer Werner Fassbinder, and he was like he was a very prolific director who died pretty early, but he just shot, I guess what I connected a lot to him is a lot of the actresses had a lot of soul and a lot more depth than like I think most films in the 70s had. But and so with me, I think what I relate to a lot with that is like, for some reason it's easier for me to like express myself with like through, or it was with Tyger, through a woman's, it's weird, it's like a surrogate almost. Like I can express things and I think it's because of the tools or the world. There's it's I just knew, especially with Sam, it's like you can get thing. It's like you can express that. It was an easier channel for me to like do that, with, and I think I'm sure that was the case with that fast binder as well. But yeah.
Wow, that's really interesting. So
Yeah.
what is something you want audiences to take away from your film?
I would say it's interesting because people have like different interpretations of it. It like kind of affects, I guess, people differently, which I don't, and it's hard for me to make a statement about it. I don't really know. Aside from, I think that there's issues in there that like speak to the like there's just something about, there's this sort of tragedy of like this dark and light, and I think there's, if I could have one thing, it would be just to think differently, to or just be open to like having another perspective, and um and it just was interesting. I don't know, it's interesting with a lot of test screenings too, like you just get weird answers on there, and like it's what triggers some people doesn't other people, and that was really what it was, is like just kind of be open to something new, and yeah, that's pretty much what I would.
Cool. Yeah, I think with a weird film like this, it's gonna get a lot of different answers, but that's good.
Weird film.
So what are you currently working on? Any new projects that we can know about?
Yeah, there was one about there's one that is particularly close to me right now, that's about a little boy magician and his mother, and he's like a prodigy magician. It's called Magic Boy Bloodfeather, and I'm it's not as abstract as this, I guess, is like what people have, so like that's, it's just but it's weird, it's like kind of falls in that like non-genre, like it's like I was looking for examples, and maybe it's like Pan's Labyrinth with like no money or something, or like less money. Like a little bit more like, yeah, real or something. But yeah, I just like, I'm drawn to sort of kind of beautiful stories, but they also like can't be like, it's hard to like put a log line to them because they just sound super dark.
Mm-hmm.
Which is what I learned on Tyger too. It's like every log line, that's why that's why I couldn't get money going into it, because it was always, oh, it's just, film is just too dark, and but it wasn't dark. There's like something beautiful about it too, and so yeah, but I'm definitely eager to jump back in and get this one going.
Awesome. We'll be looking out for it. So thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today, Kerry. It's been great.
Thank you. Thank you for watching it too.
Of course.
Thank you for watching my weird film.
Weird films are my favorite, so of course.
Good. Nice. Cool.
All right, so great. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Bye.